It is a few minutes past, so let's go ahead and start the meeting. So this is the contributor growth working group meeting for the CNCF tag contributor strategy. So as such, we fall under the CNCF code of conduct. So please be kind to each other. The first thing we have on the agenda, we have some new people. So I thought maybe we do just super quick introductions. So I'll start since I'm already talking. I'm Dawn Foster. I'm Director of Open Source Community Strategy at VMware, and I am one of the TAG co-chairs. Josh.
I'm Josh Burkus. I'm the second of three co-chairs, and I work in Red Hat's OSPO. Nate?
Hello, everyone. I'm Nate W. I'm a developer advocate with the CNCF, and I focus there on documentation as well as mentorship. And to the latter, I am the co-chair with Jay Tahima of the working group. Oh, come on, brain. this tag's working group. So let's pass it on to Robert before I fall over here.
Thank you. My name is Robert Keelty. I am working for II, and I'm doing some work on a thing called Proud GitHub Actions, which I'll be able to report status on in the coming weeks to maybe put out into the community for use, possibly POC at the moment. Hand over to Noah.
Hi, I'm Noah Abrams. I am a TPM at Oracle, focusing entirely on contributor enablement, and that's really all I have to say right now because it's early in the morning for me. I will pass it over to Sanskar.
Yes, everyone. I'm Sanskar, and I'm LFX mentee for CNCF tag contributor strategy working, contributor infrastructure working group, and I'm working on with the folks at II. They are brilliant folks, and I'm trying to design. I'm trying to bring the pairing capabilities that II has to the masses by including it in Coder and Gitbot sort of working environments. So that's what I'm doing, and probably it would be done very soon. So I'm hoping to get the results very soon. Yeah.
Okay, Michelle, how about you?
Hi, everyone. So I am a maintainer on the Pixie project. We became a sandbox project sometime early last year, and we're working towards incubation now. And one of the recommendations from our annual review was kind of go and check out this tag to learn what we can do to improve our contributors, but also rework like our governance board. I think right now we are doing the BDFL model, and obviously that's not great in CNCF. So I'm just kind of here to scope things out and kind of see what things we can learn. I don't have any specific questions yet, but just here to check things out.
Okay, cool. This is our contributor growth meeting. So if you have questions about recruiting contributors for Pixie, et cetera, happy to put you on the agenda. And also we can follow up with governance on the Slack channel. Well, I think the governance meeting is next week too, anyway. Yeah? No?
No, it's not, because there are 5 weeks in September, so no meetings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
But to be clear, Michelle, there are several sort of meetings for this tag, each hitting a separate. If you're new here, there's a lot of different categories of meetings for us here.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I'm really here just to scope it out. I mean, also we're interested in learning how to improve our contributors. So I think also a good place for us to be.
Cool.
Welcome. I think we have one more introduction. Jay, you want to
go? Yep. Kia ora koutou. My name's Jay. I'm working with as well. I'm co-chairing the mentoring working group alongside Nate, and currently developing a Māori or Indigenous mentoring initiative here in New Zealand. So I'm working alongside local education, industry, community, and government to yeah, look at how we can do that to get more people into the space. So yeah, good to connect with you all.
Okay, thanks. Welcome, everybody. The first thing we have on the agenda is a presentation of the contributor productivity analysis tools by Sankar. Do you want to kick this off, or Josh, do you want to set some context? It looks like you asked for this.
Yeah, sure.
I just asked for it because Sanskar contacted me and explained what he was working on, and so I said it would be good to present it here. But I don't actually know much about it beyond yet having a lot to do with contributors. So
Sure, I will be more than happy to present. And the context was a bit like there was a question that was asked in the first meeting where I joined in, and I kind of missed the context and explained some things that I was previously involved with. So I thought it might be interesting, and so I guess Josh put me on the agenda, so it would be great to discuss it today. I have made a presentation that might be helpful for everyone, and here we have Dawn, who herself is doing great works at Chaos Community. So there would be some brilliant insights from her side as well. So I would like to present my screen first of all, so that everyone can see.
Do you have permissions to share your screen? Are you all set?
Yes, I guess it's working now.
yes, it is.
Okay. Oops. Let me do it in presenter view. That would be better. All right. I guess we have our environment set. So, okay, now it's working. So basically, this is a survey of different open source development productivity analysis tools that different communities use. And I have considered only open source tools as they can be used by us to leverage our capabilities. So let me go through, first of all, what exactly is software ecosystem, because we would be using this term very frequently. So when we talk about the productivity, generally the tools that are available for the masses are focused on development productivity. But as the Chaos community defines lots of metrics that has nothing to do with the developer itself. So we have to define a more general term that can encompass everyone. So software ecosystem here in this presentation refers to the set of complex relationships amongst the individuals and organization that is responsible for the overall development trajectory of the software itself. It can include all the organization, all the software, all the people, everyone who is involved in the efforts. So now moving on, we have types of software ecosystem. That's pretty simple. We have open source software ecosystem, closed source software ecosystem, and hybrid source software ecosystem that has some complexity. And one more thing, I'm trying to keep this presentation short, but there are a few articles that have, because we are focusing solely on the capabilities of the tools that can be used by CNCF. Right now, I'm not defining all these terms in very depth, but because I have some articles that I've written over them, so I will link them afterwards in this presentation so that you can read them maybe whenever you get some time, or if you're interested. So what is productivity in software ecosystem? So it is simple. Productivity has different meanings for different individuals in different software ecosystems. For open source software, one of the productivity measure can be how many contributors we are onboarding every day. But for a commercial setting, productivity has nothing to do with the contributor onboarding. It in itself can be maybe a product manager might be more interested in getting agendas done fastly. So that is one of the productivity metrics. And here, afterwards in this article, we would be using development productivity rather than this big term, just for the sake of brevity. Okay. And what are the advantages of development productivity analysis? with like there are some philosophical stuff we can consider that we should never poke a developer on his or her productivity, and that's true because different developers have different tendencies. Some might be working on very complicated projects, and it's totally wrong to poke them that they are not doing their work fastly. So but here we should have an analysis of how our development is moving on so that actually we can make informed decisions, right? Without relying on just some probabilities factor. So it's important to keep data into consideration. So that is something that we should definitely take into consideration. Now we would be going on to our main concepts. What is development productivity analysis? So we can in simple and layman term, we can define the pipeline in three ways: extracting data from different sources that ecosystems interacts with, processing data and storing useful data for generating insights in future, and generating insights in the form of metrics or with the help of advanced analysis such as machine learning to gain interesting insight. This is a simple pipeline to define how development productivity analysis works. And now we would be coming on to the tool that was the primary agenda of today's meeting that we wanted to discuss that can be leveraged by us. First one is Devstat. Let me quickly pull on to Devstat. Devstat is CNCF native tool. It is being used by our community to measure the health of our different projects. It's pretty extensible for CNCF project. We just have to put some scripts. I quickly scrolled through the repository, so I'm not very sure, but it's definitely extensible. But for external parties, as it is an infra-based tool, it would be difficult, but it's still possible as it is an open source project. So for external party, for external organization who want to use Devstat, they can pretty much pull Devstat repository and can do the naming or whatever they want or by themselves, and they can use it in their project accordingly. So, but
Okay.
it's yes.
Yeah, let me interrupt you here because I'm actually was part of the team that created DevStats.
Okay.
Yeah, we when building DevStats, we ended up doing a lot of things to accommodate supporting Kubernetes. That make it hard for projects outside of the CNCF to use it simply because the system requirements are so large.
I have written, can you
Yeah.
please read the fourth point if it makes an appropriate assumption? I've
Yeah.
written that it is an infra-based tool and setting it up for the beginners or for someone who is in external party would be difficult because we probably would be using our cluster maybe or our infrastructure to deploy Devstat, and there is a DNS that is cncf.devstat.io or kubernetes.devstat.io that displays all the information. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we actually have container packages and that sort of thing for somebody to set it up themselves. It's just that whoever's going to set it up themselves needs to have hosting and fairly robust hosting with a lot of storage. Sure. Because the traffic in Kubernetes is so high, we do things like copy the entirety of certain kinds of GitHub traffic. Because it actually makes sense for us to copy, for example, the whole GitHub commit stream and just filter for the things we care about, since the things we care about are like 25% of all GitHub commits. So, yes. but that's not very applicable to projects outside of Kubernetes. Sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to provide you with extra information about that because I helped build Devstats, and specifically one of my goals originally was to reuse it for some Red Hat projects that were not CNCF projects.
Okay.
And ultimately what happened was making Devstats work for Kubernetes conflicted with making it portable.
Oh, that's really cool. And it is an infra-based tool. So I would definitely like to explore it someday. Right now, as I'm working pretty deeply with infrastructure, so it would be great to hover around the repository someday. So I've written it that it is an infra-based tool, and I will add it that it's more than what I assumed it to be. It's more difficult to use by the external parties. So I will include it in this presentation as well. But Devstat is basically used by the native CNCF projects, and it's do what it does. Okay. So now LFX Insight. It is based on Grimoire Lab. I will be explaining about Remote Lab ahead, and I've just mentioned it because it is simply affiliated with Linux Foundation. So I thought it's cool to mention it here in this presentation when we are talking about open source. It is a platform, not a tool. And it provides vast trove of data. We have a lot of things in LFX Insight. It almost has everything, lots of things. I'm not sure whether the CNCF community, the different communities that are around Linux Foundation can leverage those data. I'm not sure about it, but they have very robust infrastructure. So that can be explored in future by you or by other people, how we can leverage those data trove.
So
Now,
one
yes.
note about LF Insights.
Yes.
LF Insights has had accuracy problems.
Okay.
Which has hurt its adoption.
Okay, got it. So I will add that one thing here as well. So it has inaccuracy problem. Okay, I will add that in presentation. Sure. So anything else?
Somebody else put a note on there that it's not actually open source. So
yep, it's not actually open source. I just mentioned it because of the fact it is affiliated with Linux Foundation.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I am going to ask you to try to speed it up a little bit because we do have a bunch of other stuff on the agenda.
Sure.
Okay.
I will. So basically, we have very few projects that are remaining, and I will quickly go through them. Apache Cable, that is primary project that is being used by Apache Software Foundation, and it is being used extensively in Apache community to have a record of what their community health, and it is being led by Sharon Foga, and it is developer and community focused. We know that some stats are development focused, some stats are community focused, and Docker file is available. So, and it is a containerized application and thus can be scaled. So that's what about Apache Cable. But it has some, because we primarily use Go, so it's more appropriate project. That is Devlake, that is a Go based. It's incubating stage, but is highly extensible via means of plugin. And so it depends on our use case whether we want to. We can create plugin for all sort of data sources, and thus can utilize Devlake itself. It has visualization that is based on Grafana, so it matches with our needs maybe, and custom metrics can be designed, microservice based architecture, and Kubernetes deployment available. It is currently developer focused, but has some community metrics, and maybe in the future that will change. Now, Hijia, that is one of the tool that Capital One uses in their production for DevOps dashboarding. It is implemented primarily in TypeScripts. Docker image can be built, and thus it can be scaled. And it is also developer focused. And going on, we have Remote Lab, where it provides functionality to LFX Insight itself. And lots of plugins because in LFX Insight there are lots of data sources, so it definitely is very extensible, and it is based on Docker and thus can be scaled. It uses Python at its core, so and it is both developer and community focused. And now going on, we have Auger. It is not very mature project as in the case of Grimoire Lab, and it is developer focused. It takes data from GitHub, Git, and container infrastructure initiative APIs. So we have very few APIs that Auger currently is supporting. And it is Flask-based web application. So it is Python. It is Python-based. Now we have Landscape Graph. This is pretty cool project, and it is being led by Matt Young of Tag Observability, and it is considering it is actually collecting all the data that we consider to be a larger part of software ecosystem, and it is based on distributed paradigm, and it uses GraphQL in its core and is highly scalable, and its utilities goes beyond development productivity, and there is lot of things that can be discussed, but I will add the separate articles for them. So if someone who is interested might read them afterward. So that was it for the presentation that I wanted to present. It kinds of give an overview of what are the tools that external communities are utilizing right now and what are being done in CNCF community that can be used to analyze developer productivity. It has implementation that can be used by us to, for example, to decide who should be the maintainer, etc., etc.
Any
That was-
questions or comments or feedback for Sanskar?
It's a nice survey of tools.
Yeah.
One of the things I'll add for this tag is one of the chronic problems that we have is with Devstats is that will all of the projects have access to it? Devstats present so much information that the projects have trouble making use of it. We have an open task in Kubernetes for somebody to basically create a doc that embeds graphs from Devstats that's more role-based, where it says, okay, you're maintainer of the project, these are the things you need to look at. Oh, hey, you're community manager from one of the sponsors, these are things you need to look at. You know, but the person who was originally working on that has moved on to something else. It might be something that we would consider doing for the tag, because it's also, you know, it's applicable to all the products that have access to Devstats. And like I said, my experience working with new sandbox projects has been they feel overwhelmed by the Devstats console.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you so much, Sanskar. Can you give people access to the slideshow and drop a link to it into the notes
thing.
when you get a chance afterwards? And then if you
Sure
could,
thing, yep.
yeah, if you could just stop sharing your screen. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda, contributor opportunities board project plans. Is there
Yeah,
somebody who wants to talk about
I
that?
put this on the agenda because it's been heavily under discussion, but the main people who were working on this project are not in the meeting.
Yeah.
So I think we might need to just punt it.
Okay, cool.
That's fun.
All right, so we'll talk about that next time. Contributor survey update.
So the contributor survey is out. It's been announced. We need to do the second round of publicity around it next week to try to get more respondees. We have been getting good responses so far. I don't know how diverse those responses are. One of the critical things from this contributor survey is going to be trying to get responses that aren't just North America and Western Europe. Trying to get responses that cover a broad cross section of CNCF projects and aren't just Kubernetes. So to the extent that any of you can promote the survey, and I'll put a link in the notes, among your communities, particularly your work with projects that aren't Kubernetes. We always get a strong response from the Kubernetes folks. We don't necessarily get one from other projects.
Cool. Anything else on the survey? Any questions about that?
When are we planning our next awareness blast?
Next week.
Next week, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we just released it last week, so
Okay.
Cool. Okay, working group updates, mentorship.
Would you like me to take this, Jay?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we last week, for the most part, completed our Google Summer of Code. Now, one of the things that they have done this year that is different from previous years is allowing for project extensions. So of the 25 projects that we had, 2 have extended. And so I guess that means 23 of them have been completed. So I'm going to reach out to Jessie and her team to write up potentially a blog post and a tout just to say, hey, we did this. This has been good. I'm also, I sent out a couple of emails about this, but I'm going to be working with Google to do a quick 2 to 3 minute video about our program, about the successes of it and what we're trying to do with it. I will be scripting that and putting together some slides for that prior to, because I need to get them both. I would like somebody from the CNCF to look at it just to make sure that I haven't gone insane. But I'd also like somebody from this team to take a look at, just to confirm that we're on the right track for what we want to be communicating with folks. So that's happening on October 4th. Results, my apologies, I haven't had the time this week or energy to compile the results just yet, but I will get those together for our next one. Moving on to LFX mentorship, our summer, and I tend to think of the LFX stuff as complete when I sign off on the last stipend, and so I've now signed off on the last stipend, and so I do need to follow up with Jessie and the team. I have asked them to write a blog post, and they normally do quite an in-depth one, so that it's taking a little bit of time isn't surprising to me. We do have some results in. We had 31 projects start, and then 29 sort of made it to the end. And when I say projects, that's our that is a project for a mentee. So that's one of the pieces of work that one of the CNCF projects wants done. And those have dropped for various reasons. A couple of folks withdrew. I think one even before the first stipend hit. We had 2 mentees not pass, and that's disconcerting to me out of a number of 29, especially since everybody passed the first eval point. So we always have 2 check-ins, one at the beginning, one at the end. So I feel like it would be worth reaching out potentially to the mentors and see what happened. I'm not sure that it may be worth reaching out to the mentees as well, but I need to go through the evaluations. Oh, have I sent out? Oh shoot, I might need to double check that I sent out the mentee survey. I might not have done that yet, so I need to make a note of that. Sorry about that. Again, I'm going to blame some fog in my brain for that. Survey mentees. And that should help explain some of what's going on there. Term 3 for LFX mentorship is ongoing. Right now, we've got 25 projects and mentees being supported by 28 mentors. I think that's a pretty good number. And again, yeah, it's humming right along. So we're in about week 3 or 4 for that right now. Outreachy, I wanted to bring up, and again, I hate to keep leaning on this, but I was traveling last week and was ill this week. And I did see some information passed by about Outreachy. And a few weeks ago, I was looking for dates and trying to figure out when things were being needed for Outreachy. And I missed that the deadline for applications was this week. And so one of the things that I feel I need to do as an individual, or maybe we need to do as a team, is better understand some of the calendar, like when things are due and for what projects. So I would like to put some sort of calendar together to help us track that type of stuff. That being said, Outreach, I believe, has historically been a project-driven. I don't think that we do anything, and correct me maybe if I'm wrong here, Josh, I think you've had more experience with it than I, but it seems like it's an individual project-run thing along the lines of how do we manage Google Summer of Code, Docs, Season of Docs.
Yeah, we explore this more in the mentoring system, but Outreach runs a little bit different from the other programs. Among other things, per mentee funding is required. And that funding generally shows up earmarked for specific projects.
Right. So I feel like we need to do some more infrastructure kind of planning for Outreach if we're going to participate. Like we can't, I don't think that's a thing that we can turn around in a week or a day. I think we need to plan.
Honestly, this would be a good thing to recruit somebody specific for the mentoring working group to find somebody who wants to, because historically, I think only Kubernetes has participated in Outreach. Occasionally, one of the other projects.
Yeah, I think OpenTelemetry has also participated.
Yeah, I think OpenTelemetry. Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. And having mentoring working group volunteer whose thing was Outreach would make a big difference.
That's a good idea.
For Kubernetes, by the way, we've just had a new volunteer take over Outreach, which is why Kubernetes is sitting this round out, because she's effectively starting from scratch. We don't have any unused project ideas for Outreach that are available right now. So we're skipping this round on purpose.
Right, and I think that's what I'm remembering. I'm going to go back and read up some of what's going on in there. Sorry, excuse me. KubeCon, now that we're past some of the other stuff that has been happening, I think that we need to, I think Jay and I and Josh need to sit down at some point and hash out what it is we want to say at our mentorship talk. And as of right now, I don't know that we know. So that's the update.
When's the next mentoring meeting?
Oh, I think that's next week.
Next week.
Okay. Yeah. Can we just take up the tail end of that?
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got nothing going on in the afternoon past that, and I've canceled my. I've canceled my. I was going to Spice World next week, but for reasons I've decided to not. And lastly, for me, just with Catherine being added to the TAG co-chair, I'll be adding her to the mentorship resources like I did with Josh and Don. It's administrative, just to give the three of you access and visibility into what we're doing.
Yeah, one of the things I need to create an issue for is we should have a better redirection page under Tag Contributor Strategy repo, because there's a mentorship folder there, and we should have a redirection page that redirects not just to the general mentorship repo, but actually to specific resources in it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that actually goes to something I haven't put on the list here, but that's not only, yes, we should do a redirect, but I'm of the opinion that we should rework our information architecture, and I've asked Rian and Jay to start to take a look at researching what we've got in order to help us plan a potential website in the same vein as the contributor.cncf.io. I'd love to see something like a mentorship or a mentoring.cncf.io that would be our sort of go-to page for a lot of the type of work that we're wanting to share.
Yeah, well, and one of the things you want to ask yourself is, do you want a separate page, or do you want this to just go under the contributions page?
Either. Regardless, I think the starting point. Yes, I agree. But I think the first thing is to understand what information we've got, and then from there decide how we want to start to present it.
And I do want to cycle back to KubeCon before we move away from this section. We also have a project kiosk that we have for every morning. So I've put a link in the notes if anybody wants to sign up for a shift. So my hope is that we'll have a variety of people who can talk about a variety of different things. So anybody who's a regular contributor to this tag is welcome to sign up for a shift. And those times are super flexible. I just made them up. So if you have other commitments and want to do a different time, just change the spreadsheet. As long as we have a person for the whole time that we have the stand, then we're good. So feel free to adjust the times to fit your schedules.
Yep. And you've got a link there? Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I put a link in the notes.
I tend to spend a lot of time in that area during KubeCon, so I'd be happy to run a shift there.
Awesome. Anything else on the mentorship bits?
I'll just give a really brief update. I'm just conscious of everyone's time, but just in terms of some stuff for working on my side of things is just chipping away at strategy stuff. And again, got to catch up with Nate about some of that ahead of next week's meeting. As I've mentioned previously, there's not much awareness around a lot of open source projects and stuff in general around New Zealand. So a lot of my effort's been trying to chip away at that. So I've just been working on some program development stuff with some others who have been working especially with Māori in terms of getting people into tech. So some who have tailored some services for the likes of AWS and things like development boot camps and things like that. But currently talking to or working on integrating it with a local tertiary provider over in here in New Zealand. Apparently they actually developed some open source Linux programs a couple of years ago that wasn't picked up by management. So just been sort of sitting there. And so now they're really interested in terms of integrating some more industry relevant stuff around containers and things especially. So yeah, it's good to try and, we'll start getting some traction as far as making it part of formal education. So that's pretty cool. And also working on the development of a youth hub's feasibility study through the local council that's been sort of been on hiatus for the last few years, and they're quite interested in taking some open source approaches, learn about that in terms of how they can encourage a little bit more transparency and community engagement with starting to get a little bit more open participation input into that. So things are slow moving, but starting to get out there as far as just increasing ubiquity and awareness about some different ways to approach some the way that we are building people towards industry and getting out there in the community. So still work in progress, but it's right at the moment. So cheers.
That's great. Thanks, Jay. Any questions about any of that? Okay, contributor infrastructure.
Do we have anybody from that sub-project here?
I know Rob has been dabbling, so this is kind of roughly where we've put the prow replacement stuff. But I don't think, have you had a chance to sync up with Carolyn on the efforts that she's had so far?
No, I have not, and I was kind of hoping to see her at this today. I can give a brief status update on where I am since we last spoke at OSS. I've been working on an application called Prow GitHub Actions, and what that is it's effectively a fork of Hook, which at the moment operates as a long-running microservice in a Prow install. And what PGA does is to do a similar job to Hook, except it gets stood up and torn down by a GitHub action. And where I am at with that, I have some trivial plugins, Prow plugins working, having been kicked off by a Prow GitHub action. And some of the more complex plugins, and some of them are quite complex, Blunderbuss in particular, which auto assigns reviewers to new pull requests, is a substantial piece of kit. So I'm working through getting that deployed and getting that working. But the overall net benefit, as probably everybody here knows, is that this kind of tool could be a way of taking advantage of Prow plugins without the requirements to maintain infrastructure to run a full Prow instance and deployment. So proof of concept, as an engineer, there's tech debt in there because I'm leveraging libraries that have been developed for one architecture and where microservices live for a long time. So there's a few things that I could pull away to make this thing a little bit lighter. But just to prove the concept, we're getting towards going, okay, this is a thing that could be done and could be seriously looked at. And the final thing I'd say about it is that I'd be happy to sit down with anyone who's operating in this space to share GitHub action learnings and looking at other approaches and compare and contrast what is good and bad about any implementation approach, and kind of swap and share knowledge on that.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I'm really curious about the information sharing and learning between you and Carolyn,
Yes.
because you're using the Prow libraries, which I don't think
Yes.
that Carolyn is. So I think that she's taking a completely different approach. And so I'll be curious to see what's worked well for you, what hasn't, what's worked well for her, what hasn't, and see if we can converge on a kind of a single thing.
Yeah.
But I think I'm sure we've learned a lot from both of the approaches. So I'm curious to see those learnings.
Yeah, absolutely. The key thing is to take a look at the benefits to project maintainers and project contributors, and just go, right, given the input of tech and given the output of benefit to project and given cost of maintenance, cost of running, just do that cost benefit analysis across any approach and go, what's the best thing to do here? It could end up being a Prius, it could end up being hybrid, because it's so easy. It's so easy for me now to go, let's stand up, let's use PGA to just have one or two plugins. And we could say, well, let's take the hard plugins, or the plugins that have a lot of implementation in them and a lot of useful, tricky coding, and let's just take advantage of those. But also look at other approaches as well. There's we might end up having the problem of we have too many choices, but equally, I think we could, when I have that chat with Carolyn and we compare and contrast all approaches, we'd be able to go, oh, we like this, and this, and it could end up being that I could see that we might cherry pick different bits from different tech stacks, but we have to have the chat in order to figure that out. Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for all your work on this, Rob. This is really interesting.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun.
Anything else on the contributor infrastructure?
Just want to ask whether my project comes in that thing, contributor infrastructure, that is about providing contributor with good infrastructure, easy infrastructure onboarding stuff. So I can provide some updates on that as well.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically about the updates, that's right now it's currently, I was trying to POC that, I was working on the proof of concept, and it came out to be that there are three options that we have currently. II has been using a pair that is a infrastructure, and on top of that, we have a pairing capabilities involved, provided with Emacs. We can pair with each other, we can do coding with each other and different stuffs. Now, for the folks who are outside II, they would have difficulties to deal with the Emacs, not actually with the Emac thing, but with a lot of other things. Configuring a pair itself is pretty complicated. So what we have decided to do is that we would be using Coder, that provides lots of different IDEs such as VS Code, JetBrains, or maybe Gitpod. Right now, I'm prototyping it with Coder, but we have options with Gitpod as well. And basically everything, both of them have very similar infrastructure. So once we can do this thing with a single, with the Coder, the same thing can be done with the Gitpod. And currently, AI folks are also exploring possibility with GitHub code spaces. That is a GitHub proprietary tool based on development containers. And these all would have similar things. Basically, what is the essence is infrastructure provisioning, and by one click, you would get a cloud native development environment. So that's really cool. That is the update. And maybe in 2 weeks, I would be able to complete the prototyping, and coding part would not take that much time, but prototyping is currently taking some time. Yep.
Cool, thank you. So I think we are at the end of our agenda. So are there any other things that people want to discuss before we call it a meeting?
Yeah, Michelle, did that just generate any questions for you?
Not yet. I think I'm still here just learning, but I think that was actually really informative. And yeah, thanks everybody.
And Michelle, have you checked out the resources that we have on the website about building contributor base?
I have not yet, but I will take a look.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's contribute.cncf.io, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, have a look. And maybe that will spark some questions. And we're pretty active in the Slack channel. So if you have anything that you want to talk about, in between meetings, please feel free to just ping us on Slack, and we're happy to have discussions for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. This was a really interesting meeting. Thanks.
Seeing
care.
you all. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone. Have a great day.